Okay, so we're going to start building our cylinder today. So remember, yesterday we put together our materials. You do need a plastic bag that should have your first and last name, an hour on it. You should have a piece of cardboard, same thing, first and last name, an hour on it. You should have a water bottle that has been wrapped in a paper towel to build your cylinder around. And then today you're going to need the following materials. You're going to need a template for your slab. You're going to get a chunk of clay. You're going to need 2 wooden slats and a rolling pin. You'll also need slip. You'll find it in the frosting container in the center of your table. You'll need some clay tools. Now your clay tools might look like this, or they might be the alternate clay tools to work with. So the first thing, you're going to need a canvas mat on the table. If you roll directly on the surface of the table, your clay will stick. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our slab, and mine, when I cut it a little uneven, so I'm going to just even it out by just kind of wedging it just a little bit on the table. This should be enough clay for you to get your slab cut out for your cylinder if you're going with the small and even the medium. If you're going with the large, I'm going to have to cut you more clay for you to work with. So then as it gets a little bit longer, then I kind of tap the edges. Okay, so I think this is ready to work with. When you get your clay, don't play with it or poke it or any of those things, because right now there's no air bubbles in it. It's really a nice piece of fresh clay. The more you work with it with your hands and mess with it, the more it dries the clay out. So when I go to roll this out, the reason I have guides here is this is to help me get my clay to be this thickness here. So it helps me to roll the clay out evenly. So I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to start to press down and away with the rolling pin. And I can see as it's going, is it wide enough? It's looking like it is wide enough so far. And then I start to roll back. Now here I have a big amount that's kind of holding it up. So sometimes I will take and just press down where there's that large amount of clay. And so if we look, this should be nice and even in thickness all the way down the slab. So I'm going to set this off to the side. We need to have our water bottle. So I'm going to take my extra clay that I just trimmed and I'm going to wedge it. So I take and I press it into a sphere and then I wedge it. This is to get any extra air bubbles out. I can also knead it. Now this is such a small amount of clay, it's hard to knead. So I'm just going to stick with the wedge. Okay, now I have my water bottle here. I'm going to take this around the water bottle. Now notice here I have plenty of clay. I actually have a little bit too much clay. So I could take and recut this if I need to. Now if you're using like a pop can or a bigger form, you might need that full form. But I'm going to go ahead and just leave it a little bit looser. I'm going to retrim here and I'm going to re-score. Now you don't want to wrap it so close to the water bottle that you can't lift the water bottle up, but you want to have it so like this would probably be as close as I'd want it to go. So there, I've trimmed the edges. So now I'm going to meet those edges up. So this is called scoring. Now the slip that we have, it comes in, we store it in this kind of a container. you're going to need a wooden tool to apply it. So I take a little bit of slip here, and I just put it on one side. And then I press those two together for the seam. And this might be where you stop for day one. So if this is where you get to when the bell rings, then you're going to carefully lift, put it on your cardboard. You're going to wrap it up in the cardboard this way until we're ready for day two. So you put it on the cardboard, you put it in your plastic bag, you carefully press the air out, and then tuck it underneath and put it in your art locker. I take all this extra and I can knead it together. So I'm pressing it together in my hands, and I can wedge it. It's when wedging is when you throw it in a controlled manner against the table. This is compressing all the pieces together, getting the air bubbles out. You can also knead it this way, where you rotate it in your hands. You press down and then rotate, press down, rotate, press down, like you're kneading dough. So I could take and combine all my clay